communicate with them. And just this sacrificial love and service that they gave us was overwhelming.
It was definitely on the food distribution. We met a young woman named Wendy who lived in a ranty shack, and she was down to her last loaf of bread, and she gave it to her 2 kids without eating herself. And she came from an evil background, and she cried out to God, can you help me? I just want to give my family a home. And God answered her prayers by upgrading her home by the help of the church. And just the tears in her eyes, you could see that she was touched by the love of God.
One thing that was impactful to me was the church service Sunday morning, because everyone was really excited and worshiping and praying. And even though I don't speak a lot of the language, I can still understand everything going on around me. You can really feel the Lord's presence in there. And it's really refreshing to see that, like, even 3,000 miles away, we're all still worshiping the same God, the one and only God, and it was just really nice feeling that.
It was probably during the food distribution. There was this woman who was living with her parents and siblings, and when we asked what we could pray for her about, she asked for a husband and family that she could serve for God, and it was such a beautiful thing to hear, because you don't hear that back in the States.
I just want to share with you the story of Jonathan, that someone we met. This guy, was on drugs and was alcoholic and living his life, out of the way of the Lord. But right here in Superior, in a local small church, someone presented the gospel to him in the middle of his struggles. And he received Jesus Christ as his Lord. He was healed of all of his wounds, because he got in a fight and he was cut up his nose, his ears. He was, chopped up all, in all parts of his body. And then he was healed and he was restored. And finally, he engaged the church. I know he's just happy. He left the drugs, he left the alcohol, and he's serving the Lord. He was here. And the best part of it is that he was one of the ones that baptized today on this trip. So, that was really impactful for me.
I think possibly the most impressed me the most was the one house that we went to. The lady, I think she had like 5 kids, and the house was all constructed of scrap wood and corrugated tin. Well, a lot of them were, but this particular one was one of the first ones, and I think she was waiting for a house. But she was so, I think
very first lady that we took food to on our trip. I can't remember her name, but she had 2 young boys, and she had just recently been hit by a car when she was on her motorcycle. And so her whole arm was all stapled up and everything, and we asked her about it, and we asked if she was hurt really badly, and she said yes, but she was more pissed off than anything. So we invited her to women's ministry, and she said that she had to get her staples out that same day. But it turns out she went and got her staples out and then came back and got involved in women's ministry, even though she just got all those staples taken out and had all that traveling to do. It's just instantly I was reminded of all the resilience by the women who do a lot more than most people give them credit for. So.
Probably the most impactful experience I had while I was down here was during food distribution. We went to a woman's house who told her story, and it was probably the most powerful story I've ever heard of perseverance and faith. And she was basically thrown away as a child. Her father threw her and her siblings out of the house at a young age, and she ended up on the streets. And because of that, she was raped at the age of 11, pregnant at 12, chose to have the child, who is now a grown man, and she also has two twin boys. She spent her working life saving up to build a house, which took 18 years to do, and it's a very beautiful and tidy, modest home. But she questioned God in the middle of all that trouble, I think in her mid-teens, and asked God, why me? And God gave her an answer, and it just speaks to how God will answer an earnest cry out. He's not going to leave you alone. And his answer to her was that she was going to be important in helping other women make it through similar things, and to
church to just like, here's food on the table, we're going to give you food to take to your home. The love and the care everyone shows them was like literally seeing Jesus being there, being fed these people and hug them and tell them that they are loved.
The most impactful event that I had taken away from this mission trip was when we had baptisms at the church on Sunday, and to see the emotion that was involved in that event, for a lot of people getting baptized and their families. It was just an astronomical event to be there, a part of that. I was one of the members that was helping people get in
about the people. I got more about the people and about what they go through, and how they do it with such graciousness and such thankfulness, and they have faith. I just love it. I love it.
People here, they're very happy people. They have a lot of joy even amidst their circumstances. So I'm going to try to take that gratitude home with me and be happier in general.
For me, my religion is totally internal. I don't pray out loud. I find it it's uncomfortable. I just can't do it. And I've never been really involved in any of the churches that we have attended. We just go to church and go home. Now I think I want to get involved, and I think that is probably the most important thing that's happened to me this week. I will go home and get involved in my church. You know.
I think it would take everything and every single one with me, but I was really, really impacted by the unity, the love, the sharing. It was just really nice for me, and I say congratulations to you guys for that.
Making sure that we are really focusing in on seeing people, on recognizing the needs around us, or even just making eye contact, saying hi to someone that you pass in the street, like identifying that they're a person and they have needs it's just a huge thing, and it opens doors.
I just feel like I'm going to be a lot more, I'll think a lot more differently about things, and like how I have a lot of things that most people don't have, and I don't know, it makes me feel a lot different about how my life is compared to theirs, and I'm grateful for that.
Yes, I think about experiencing that kind of love for a complete stranger. I was a complete stranger in their church, in their home, and just welcoming me with open arms really makes me think about, how do I welcome people to my church? How do I welcome people to my home? And how can I do better at that? And so I just really want to bring that same kind of love every day into what I'm doing.
Love of this community of believers was so impactful that I'm asking God, how can we take this kind of love back to our church and spread it to our community? This unconditional, love your enemy, find only the positives in people, not their flaws. We all have them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we take this back at a greater level to my church and our community?
As I think about going back home, I think about what Pastor Luis and Anita are doing, listening to the call of Jesus on their life, and it really, really burdens my heart to listen and obey, and to follow the call that Jesus has on my life. And I would encourage you to listen and obey as well, because God is a relentless God. He will pursue you, so you can complete all that He has created you to be.
One thing that I'll bring back with me, other than a few new words in Spanish, is probably just the people that I've met there and connections I made, even though like the distance apart, obviously, I'll still be thinking of them and having them in my prayers.
Probably just like appreciate the things you have, and like even if you don't have a lot, you can make anything beautiful, and just praise God for all you have.
One thing that I take back with me from this trip is the fact that we know that I need to be a little bit more thankful for what I have, and more aware of what other people don't have. And I need to do what I can to make sure that I do my part to do what I can to help people with their lives.
And yeah, something that I would take to myself and even to our church is that, you know, when a church or a group of people really want to serve God and do mission, God will pour His Spirit in the middle of them. I mean, He was so awesome in what he did for us and the way he kept us and provide blessings. So, you know, we just have to be obedient and faithful, and he will, you know, fulfill his word. So I will take that with me.
I'm definitely going to take back home just being soft-hearted and open-minded and just being so welcoming. I feel like every single year I come down here, I just feel so welcomed. I feel it's like overwhelming, and I just feel like everybody just has that amount of comfort where you feel welcomed and it feels good, and it makes me want to go to church. So I'm really hoping that I could do the same thing back at home.
I'm really grateful that I get to be a kid down there with all the other kids. So, because I definitely feel like sometimes I'm getting old and then I got to go down there and just keep them all entertained in the best way that I know how to. But it's amazing, and all of it together is just a blessing, and I'm glad to be part of it. So.